Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Directions Mag Geospatial webinar, today sponsored by our friends at SmartyStreets. So today we have Wes Arnold and Burke Charlton with us from SmartyStreets. They are here to help you improve your geocoding and validation game. We are excited to learn more about the process with them. So gentlemen, we're thrilled to have you. Welcome. And look forward to learning more.
Thanks, Barbary. This is Wes Arnold, and I'm here with Burke. And we're excited to have you for today's webinar. It's no secret that the quality of geocoding is largely dependent on the quality of the data that you start with. So today's webinar is going to discuss the benefits of coupling high-quality address validation with geocoding to garner the best results possible. So I'll introduce you to Burke in just a moment, but first, just a short introduction to our company. So since 2011, SmartyStreets has been revolutionizing location data intelligence by providing address validation that's both highly accurate and lightning fast. We process billions of records each day for thousands of customers. And our services are 100% cloud-based, so our architecture is built around technologies that allow us to process enormous amounts of data at speeds that other competitors have a hard time matching at reasonable prices. Even our unlimited subscription prices are offered at a price that might surprise you. So also, we have amazing support. When I first came to SmartyStreets, I asked our support lead, so what's the average queue time that somebody has to wait in the queue? And his answer was, well, I think we've had a queue maybe once or twice during this last year. So the point being that there usually isn't a queue. When you call, they answer right away. We also have a 99.99% uptime. Technically, we've never been down, so enormous reliability in that way. Also, we're very generous with our trial accounts. We want you to be completely satisfied, so we're very flexible with our trial accounts. And at the end of this webinar, there'll be a poll that if you're interested in a trial account, just let us know in that poll, and we'll get a trial set up for you. Now, to introduce our subject matter expert. Burke is the Chief Product Officer for SmartyStreets. He joined about a year ago, and he brought with him over 25 years of knowledge regarding geocoding and spatial data. Burke's experience before SmartyStreets includes working for a large multinational corporation as their Managing Director of Product Management. While there, Burke led the global data business and geocoding business in creating an entire suite of location intelligence, geocoding, and data products within their enterprise location intelligence portfolio. And with that introduction, I'll turn it over to Burke.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Barbary, for this introduction. And now we'll get started. Let me give you a little bit of an introduction to what we'll be talking about today. We're going to talk about the integration of address validation, geocoding, why that's important, and why it matters. We'll be talking about the SmartyStreets US Rooftop Geocoding and also the reverse geocoding, and we'll be doing a real live demo. The US Rooftop Geocoding roadmap will also be discussed. And we'll talk about some new products we're coming out with, which include international address validation and geocoding. And then for those who are with us, we'll have some Q&A. So a starting point to geocoding has to be to talk about data enrichment. Once you have a geocode, it unlocks huge amounts of data. An example here is our headquarters at 2335 South State Street here in Provo. The latitude and longitude is returned when it's geocoded on the building, and in address geocoding and addresses, the steps are cleansing it, normalizing, and validating it. One truth that is for sure is that once an address is validated, the geocoding is better. The better the validation, the better the geocoding. And once that latitude and longitude has been assigned, huge amounts of location and contextual data can be added to the address. The process is somewhat more complex maybe than one would think. In geocoding, the address is standardized and normalized according to local standards, state, municipal, or even country standards. The address is then cleansed, and then it's verified and validated in the US according to USPS rules. Then once that good match has happened and validated, it's matched to street data and point data and local geography. Once that point has happened, then it can return detailed address and location codes and all the metadata and contextual data for additional decision making. One of the great advantages of having fully validated addresses, especially according to some sort of authoritative decision-making system, is that it reduces false positives. For anyone who's doing decision-making using geocode, a false positive is kind of a horrendous thing. We really dislike them. I've always disliked false positives, and that happens when an address is confirmed by a geocoding system, but in fact it's matched badly or it's in the wrong location. With the companies I've worked with, especially those who have highly operational processes such as insurance or telecommunications or delivery systems, a non-match is highly preferred over a false positive match, because a false positive match leads to bad decisions and very costly mistakes. False positives are greatly reduced by high quality address validation, such as what SmartyStreets provides. And the US Rooftop Geocoder is 100% integrated with the SmartyStreets address validation API. So let me give you an example of a false positive that I came across not too long ago. I'm going to mention Google here because we all love Google. I have a complex relationship with Google Maps, as many of us in the geospatial industry do. And we all use it, but we also are sometimes aware of where it falls short. Well, this is an example here. SmartyStreets headquarters is on 2335 South State Street in Provo. It's also, State Street is also combined with US 89. It's the same road. So I typed in 2335 South US 89 in Provo, Utah, 84601 in Google Maps. You can duplicate this if you'd like to try it. Google Maps returned 2335 US 89 in Harrisville, Utah, which is 90 miles away. SmartyStreets returned unknown address. That would have been a preferable return instead of a match 90 miles away with no indication that there is any doubt about the decision that Google made. That, my friends, is a false positive, and that is also a bad thing. And address validation will not allow that, or correct address validation will not allow that to happen. Rooftop geocoding is another thing that could probably use a little bit of definition. The term's been around a long time. Since I've been around a long time too, I've seen this particular expression go through multiple iterations. In years past, I've seen rooftop geocoding be applied to ZIP+4 geocoding. This was back in the old days of geocoding in the very early 90s. Then street interpolated geocoding was called rooftop geocoding. Then partial centroid geocoding was called rooftop geocoding. In fact, many companies today still call partial centroid geocoding rooftop geocoding. When we say rooftop geocoding, we mean that the placement of an address is actually on top of a rooftop of a building, the building that it represents, where that address is located. And the new SmartyStreets Rooftop Geocoder places a high majority of geocoded addresses right on top of the rooftop of the actual building where it is. And I'll show you some examples of this later and give you some matching statistics. A sample address to illustrate this: 1142 West, 1500 North, Salem, Utah, which is about 30 miles from here. Recently, it's been common in the industry to call a partial centroid match a rooftop match, such as what we're seeing here. I picked a long, narrow parcel to help illustrate the point. However, this is really a partial centroid match. The US Rooftop Geocoding by SmartyStreets will give this result here, which is actually on the rooftop, which is true rooftop. I challenge you to try this at some point with some larger parcels, maybe with your current geocoder or with Google Maps or someone else, but try, give this a shot here and you'll see what I mean. This happens quite a bit, especially with larger parcels or rural areas or perhaps large apartment complexes. The accuracy levels of geocoding vary substantially. And just to give you a very real example here, an example address on 711 West 23rd Street in Lawrence, Kansas. In fact, it's Suite 6. So the building rooftop, and this is on Suite 6, shows the star there. The parcel centroid for this particular property and address is there in the parking lot. The zip for centroid is there near the street. The zip force typically will fall on a street segment near where the property is located, and that's not bad, but it's not, for many applications, it's not accurate enough. And then the 5-digit zip centroid is over here out in the country, over to the right there. So this gives you an example of the different levels of geocoding accuracy. Some applications do require very high confidence in location accuracy. Over the years, I've worked a lot with property and casualty insurance, and they are quite insistent on getting accurate geocodes, especially in high-risk areas. An example would be an accurate distance to coast calculation is very necessary for insurance underwriting. Here we've got an expensive house on an exposed Florida coastline. Knowing where that property is versus 200 feet away, further inland, really makes a difference. So rooftop geocoding in this case really matters. Another example from P&C Insurance is in wildfire risk. This also requires high accuracy geocoding, and high risk areas are very granular in the case of wildfire and specific to topography and vegetation. If you look at the wildfire risk map, and this is a government source risk map from Bend, Oregon, you'll see that the areas of very high risk in dark red versus those of no risk or very light risk in the light yellow, they're very close to each other. They bisect neighborhoods and streets, and this is the actual burn area in the Waldo Canyon fire in Colorado Springs several years ago. You'll see that the actual burn area was quite specific depending on terrain and brush, the existence of different brush areas, and getting a very highly accurate geocode at the rooftop level really does have a difference for ROI. Another common application where having building rooftop accuracy is in telecommunications. 5G coverage maps for looking at coverage and targeting specific businesses and things like that are really critical. And here the 5G coverage areas actually are a little bit less broad than what you might be led to believe. They tend to target areas based on specific buildings or based on high density road networks. And the providers can do their network planning by accurately geocoding the residential and business customers and planning their wireless build out according to that. Actual 5G coverage maps are revealing. The map to the right illustrates a major provider, and this is someone we've all heard of, their actual coverage in dark orange in Chicago's Loop area. They frequently target high density residential areas, high density business areas, and areas of traffic. Delivery logistics is another interesting case where building specific geocodes greatly reduces the guesswork and the time that drivers will spend driving around trying to find an actual address. The multi-unit complexes are particularly challenging for package deliveries, and knowing which building an address is in can save time and money. Unit C36 here is where that actual unit's located in one building, and it's common right now for geocoding providers to put all of the units right there at the middle of the parcel, leaving drivers and delivery people really searching around for where that might be located. Now, we're going to do a demo here. I call it the dreaded live demo because I've been trained and coached for about 25 years now not to do live demos in a webinar, but I'm going to break my own rule here and give you a live demo and show you some examples of what rooftop geocoding means. And I do want to point out that SmartyStreets allows you to try before you buy. We have a generous amount of records. And after the webinar today, I would encourage you to try the geocoding demo yourself, and one at a time in this case. And then if that looks interesting to you, please get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to set you up with a trial. And so I'm going to go ahead and go to our rooftop geocoding demo. And okay, and I'll start typing in some addresses. We have the option of doing what's called a free-form address, or also a single line address with everything on it, or address components. So I'll start off with free-form address. I'm going to start off with an apartment building in Mountain View, California. Okay, you'll see that our autocomplete here is also on display here. We have a very powerful autocomplete engine that is an option to our product. And you'll see here that 1200 Dale Avenue in Mountain View, California has 152 entries for that. So let's just click on that. I'm going to pick unit. I'll pick unit 100. And then just showing up here on a Google map here, I'm going to go into imagery mode. And I'd like you to track where that is right now. Unit 100 here is on the sort of towards the west side of the apartment complex. Now I will go back and I will type in apartment 9. You'll see here now that it shows up at the other end of the apartment complex. This is accurately geocoding apartment records to the correct building, and in this case here, even the correct part of the building where they're in. Okay, I'm going to show you one here a little bit closer to home for me, that is, and this is in a mobile home community in Provo, Utah. You'll see the autocomplete here started to find where that was. It's the different trailer, so which is the unit designation that the Postal Service uses. So I'll start with trailer 1. Again, I'll go into. You'll see it's at the north end of this mobile home park, this mobile home community. Up here now, let's go ahead and I'll track trailer. Let's type in trailer 40. And you'll see that it puts it down in the southwest part of that mobile home community. So it is correctly matching to different buildings that all share the same address and share the same parcel. Now, I challenge you to do this. Last time I tried this in Google, and again, I hate to pick on Google, but I'm going to a little bit. If you type this address in Google, it will match, regardless of the trailer number that you enter, it will put them all in the parcel centroid right here where you see that Imperial Mobile Home Park, which is at the center point of the parcel. So every address that you type in Google will put it in the center of that, and many other geocoding engines also will put that in the center of the parcel. whereas SmartyStreets is in fact matching to the correct part. Now I'm going to show you an example here, and which is, this time I'll pick one in Montgomery, Alabama. 2721 Eastern Boulevard, and that our autocomplete pulled that rate up at the very top, so I will do that. What I'm going to show you here is the capability of matching to a different part of the same building. So you'll see where the red marker is here. It's at the northern part of this particular building. And now I'll change the address slightly here. I'll put 2763 Eastern Boulevard. And if you remember where the last one was, up here at the top, the last one up there was up near where we have the Tommy Nails and Leslie's, and this one here is down where we have Party City. So these are different addresses that are differentially matched on the same building footprint. We're not matching all of them just the center of the building. So I call this a sub-building accuracy, and that's some of the capabilities that you're able to get with the SmartyStreets geocoder. Okay, I'm going to go back to the webinar now and talk about a few other things. And my dreaded live demo appears to have gone without any major mishaps. So I'm grateful for that. I'm going to give you a little statistics on some of the results that we've been finding, and we've been improving it every month, every quarter with our match rates and our accuracy. Here's where we're at right now. Most SmartyStreets geocodes will have accuracy at the building level, and many will have accuracy at the sub-building level. So here's some typical accuracy results. This was done on a benchmark we did earlier this week on 20 million addresses. 84% were true rooftop accuracy or better, and better meaning on sub-building level, like the example I just showed you. 6% were at the partial Centroid, 5% were at zip 4 Centroid, and 5% were at zip 2 and zip code Centroid. Our entry-level unlimited speed is 250 records per second, or about 900,000 per hour, and that's for unlimited geocoding per month. You subscribe, we don't track how many you use, you just have how many you can push through at 250 records a second. That's about 3.5 times faster, just FYI, as Google is in batch mode. And speeds can be up to 10,000 records per second, which is over 50 million records an hour, depending on your need and what options that you want. So we really have no theoretical limits in how fast the geocoding can go. But our basic level unlimited speed is about 900,000 per hour, or 250 records a second. And I just want to also mention, Wes mentioned earlier that we hadn't had any recorded downtime. That's because we host our geocoding on all three of the major hosting platforms out there, including Amazon's AWS, including Google's hosting, and Microsoft's hosting. And they roll over. If there's ever a problem with any of them, we roll over to the next one, both by geography and by service. So we've never had a recorded downtime. And that also, because we're using all three of these major providers and can scale up almost instantly to new servers, we measure the demand and the throughput and can scale up as fast as we need to go. That's what allows us to do billions of geocodes per day, or billions of address validations and geocodes per day. Now, I'd like to talk briefly about using APIs for geocoding. It's really a remarkable newer world that we're living in, where using APIs for services such as address validation and geocoding is really a winning strategy. both in terms of not having to host things on your own hardware and staff it with manpower to keep that hardware running and get everything installed all the time. But API geocoding, once you get it going, comfortably allows you to use multiple different providers where you have a need to get every possible match. And an example of this would be a delivery application or an insurance underwriting where the manual processing costs are quite extraordinary, where you really need to get an accurate match. It makes sense to use SmartyStreets as your primary. We're very transparent about who we are, what our match rates are, and what we do. I've been in the geocoding industry long enough to know that not every geocoder, a single geocoder will never get every address maybe that you want to get. It makes sense to roll over to a secondary geocoder or even a tertiary geocoding provider when you need to. Here's why I think it makes sense to use SmartyStreets perhaps as your primary. We deliver confident and accurate results. When we get a match somewhere, it is there. The false positive rates are very low, and we have high uptime. We're very, very fast. We have transparent and fixed pricing. So there's not some months where you're going to pay 3 times more than the last month. We have transparent fixed pricing. So I am in favor, perhaps if you have a high need to get every address matched correctly in an operational application, use a higher cost geocoding API as your secondary. Economically, you should use the best value geocoding provider as your primary, providing that geocoding provider doesn't deliver false positives and gives accurate results and tells you how accurate the results were. For example, we will tell you if it's a rooftop, if it's a parcel, if it's a street level, or if it's a zip 4. That makes sense. Use one that delivers accurate results and tells you what those results are and doesn't deliver false positive. Then if you need to roll over to another geocoding provider, it makes sense to do that. We just would invite you to make SmartyStreets your primary. We'll let you try it before you buy it. And yes, this is a sales pitch. That's why I am doing this presentation. So we're going to have a quick poll here, and I will turn the time over to Directions Magazine.
Thanks, Burke. We'll give you a second to breathe over there and get an idea from our audience what is most important for them in terms of their geocoding. 70% says accuracy. And then coming in second place with 22% is price. Not surprised that people want accurate data.
That's correct. The results don't surprise me greatly, but it was curious to see that price came in second, and I'm happy to see that. So accuracy is also highly important to us, and we hope that you'll give us a shot to at least do our free trial and see what you think. So I'd like to talk about our geocoding roadmap. Our initial release of our Rooftop Geocoding was in September of 2020. And in July of this year, and by the way, it's been a very successful launch. We have many customers who have already been using it, and the feedback has really been very great, been very good to hear. In July of this year, we'll be releasing our non-postal address data that will be fully supported. We're adding over 16 million non-postal addresses in the US. And so that the majority of non-postal addresses in the US will soon be part of our product. When we did a webinar late last year, that was our #1 most requested new feature, and question was, do you have non-postal addresses? We have been spending a lot of time and work on that, and non-postal addresses will be supported in this July. Also in July, we're going to be expanding some of our matching, not only to match to non-postal addresses, but to go well beyond what the Postal Service can do in their products. It will help to resolve difficult and previously unmatchable addresses. An example, and I like this one. It sounds like something that would have been given over the phone or perhaps entered in on a website. 110 Rockcliffe Court, Suite D, 7 days a week, 7:30 a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m., St. Louis, Missouri, 63123. Well, obviously, The 7 days a week portion of that is not part of the address, but SmartyStreets can comfortably pick that out and return the address, which is 110 Rockcliffe Court, Suite D, St. Louis, Missouri 63123. So this is a type of matching now that will be available, and it will add a significant portion of addresses that can be matched that weren't otherwise available. Also coming in May 2021, high accuracy international geocoding. We've had address validation for the world for the last 4 years, and we're now launching our high accuracy international geocoding. The geocoding address validation will be supported in over 200 countries and territories of the world. As some of you who are geography geeks like me may know that there's actually only 195 or 196 countries, depending who you talk to, and there's about 40 additional territories, and these will all be supported at some level or other. And rooftop geocoding is supported in Canada, UK, Australia, France, Germany, Mexico, Japan, and 40 additional countries. So that is nice to know that you'll have rooftop geocoding also available beyond the US and many other countries as well. The international geocoding address validation will come with our same great support team and the ease of use that you've been getting with our US products. And in August of 2021, we'll have international address autocomplete. So as you're seeing on the demo earlier, our autocomplete product, which has been available now for almost a year for the US, that will also be available for international. And that's been frankly, our #1 requested product for international has been international autocomplete. So we hope that you'll give that a shot too when that comes around. So now it is time for Q&A, and we will go ahead and take a few questions at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, there's still time to type in your question if you haven't done that already. So let's get started with our first question for you, Burke.
Yeah.
Is how current is the data on the back end?
That's a good question. The data is updated quarterly. We source from well over 6,000 municipal, county, and other sources, and we update the data as often as they update the data. And so for example, our parcel data is updated quarterly, and our municipal address data, a lot of that's sourced from E911 sources. That's why it's so accurate. And so we update it quarterly. The currency of the data is going to depend, the actual currency of each address is going to depend on the municipality, how often they update their data, but we check for updates every quarter.
Perfect. And how does SmartyStreets resolve government-owned properties?
I'll try to interpret what's meant by that question. So, for example, if it's a municipal government building or county government building or a federal government building, we actually don't distinguish between that. Normally we would call that, we do differentiate between residential and commercial addresses. That would simply be a commercial address, but we don't differentiate a government property versus another commercial property.
All right, very good. Someone would like to know if you have data on India.
Our international product does have data for India. Yes, it does. I will just by way of comment say that India is one of the more difficult countries in the world to geocode in, and in fact it's sort of like geocoding in 25 countries in one country, but there's been a lot of progress made in India geocoding. In fact, in my previous job I spent a lot of time working on India geocoding, and with a large group of Indian developers near New Delhi. So I'm very familiar with India, and it is also a very difficult country geocoding, but we do have India geocoding available in May.
Excellent. And I'm going to guess that that might include South Africa as well. Someone would like to know.
Absolutely. So, in fact, I will say South Africa has very, very high quality geocoding.
Wonderful. Do you collect the data yourself, or do you do you use publicly available or third-party data?
All of the above. We do collect publicly available data. Some of the data, a lot of the data we're collecting and integrating ourselves, and we also use commercial data sources. So we use data wherever we can find it.
Excellent. And boy, folks are really interested in these specific countries. So someone would also like to know about China.
China. So I will say that the geocoding for China, nobody does it very well, and so you're sort of dealing with the best of the worst. I frankly would advise you to check it out and see what you think, what we have, but it's a very difficult country to geocode in. There's also, just by way of information, there's what's infamously known as the China shift, where the Chinese government has shifted all the coordinates from a standard latitude and longitude to something that requires a translation key from them to know exactly where things are in. So it makes commercial relationships very difficult. But there is some.
Someone would like to know, how fast are you guys compared to Google? I know you mentioned Google a few times.
We are our standard unlimited. So we have varying levels of speed depending on what level of geocoding someone's at. But our standard rate for our unlimited is about 275 records per second, which equates to about 900,000 per hour. We have the ability to go much faster than that, up to 50 or 75 million records an hour. So 10,000, 15,000 records a second is possible. It's really optional depending on what customers are willing to license. So if we're working with someone that had literally wanted to do billions of records, we would be able to handle that comfortably.
Very good. A question about standardization. Do you standardize the search results?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a core part of what we do.
Excellent. So we're getting a little close on time here. Do we have a link there for folks where they can catch up with you guys and get more information?
Yeah, so feel free, if you have some questions, some additional questions, or you want some clarification on questions that have been asked, feel free to reach out to either Burke or I, and we'll get you taken care of. We're happy to help.
Thank you, everybody, for your listening in today and for your time. And it's been a pleasure to talk about geocoding with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate it. And the generously sharing those direct email addresses. That's wonderful. Thanks again to everybody for stopping by today. Remember to keep an eye on your inbox. You'll get an email from us with links to information, of course, recording, and an attendance certificate. And we appreciate your input on the way out. And thanks again to Wes and Burke for sharing your expertise. It was great to have you with us today. And we hope that everyone will join us for more geospatial webinars. I know that the SmartyStreets team is planning on being back with us again in the coming months. So keep an eye out for that. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and tell a friend about SmartyStreets and Directions Magazine.